I just don't think I'm ready, I said to Andre as we sat outside a corner coffee shop in the Brookside neighborhood of Kansas City. If I fight this guy and I lose, I may never get another shot like this. I know I don't have to tell you that's fear talking, Andre said. It was a brisk mid-January morning, but the sun was shining and the coffee kept us warm. It had been 2 months since my last fight, and I was undefeated in my first 8 fights as a heavyweight, which brought my record to 16-3-1. Andre and I were meeting to discuss who my next opponent would be. At this point in my life, Rachel and I had our first son, and we moved into a small apartment. I continued to work nights as a bartender to make the ends meet. Though I was having success in the ring, Rachel and I were struggling financially. On the other side of the street, I admired the big, tall oak trees and traditional bungalow-style homes that lined the sidewalks of a residential neighborhood. They were nice, well-kept, family-sized homes, but not obnoxiously large mansions. There was a unique, old-school charm to the neighborhood. I've dreamed of someday moving out of our cramped apartment and raising my kids in a neighborhood just like this. This guy's tough. He's the real deal, Andre said. But I think you're ready. Fear is telling you you're not. I had been offered the chance to fight Alex Brutka, a 14-0 fighter from the Ukraine, ranked number 18 in the world. If I accepted the fight, it would be featured on national television as part of the undercard for a bigger main event. It should have been a no-brainer to accept this invitation, but I was hesitant. I had put off the decision for 2 weeks, and Brutka's camp was getting impatient. I'm not afraid of him, I said. The whole thing just feels rushed. I've never fought on TV before. This will be the first time most people see me fight. And we really don't know anything about this guy except he fights left-handed. He's knocked out everybody he's faced, and he's ranked higher than anybody I've fought. Is that really the best way to introduce myself to the boxing world? I had fought one other left-handed fighter up to that point in my career, and I'd never faced a fighter ranked in the top 20 before. Brutka was quickly rising up the ranks, and there were whispers that he could be the next big challenger in the heavyweight division. All it takes is one little mistake, I continued, and the world sees me get knocked out. If that happens, if I don't look my best, I might never get another fight of this magnitude. I know it's time for me to take the next step, but I'm not sure this is the guy I should go against. Why not fight an orthodox fighter? Why not an opponent we know more about? This guy's been fighting overseas, and we don't know anything about the fighters he's been facing. You're having a hard time coming up with excuses, Andre said. He's left-handed. He's from overseas. We haven't studied his opponents. Give me a break. We'll just train for him like we've trained for every other fighter. I don't think your fear has anything to do with those things. Yeah? What do you think it has to do with? I think you're feeling good about how well you've been doing over the last year. You're happy being undefeated as a heavyweight, and you're afraid to take the next step. You're afraid to grow, just like you were before we made the change to heavyweight. I'm not afraid to grow, I said. I want to grow. I want to take the next step. I want to start earning a living in this sport. What I'm afraid of is making the wrong decision. This is a pivotal moment in my career. I want to make sure we pick the right opponent for my fight on national TV. Who do you have in mind? Andre asked. Give me another top 20 heavyweight you'd rather fight and we'll set it up. Andre was calling my bluff. I didn't have another fighter in mind. I'm sure we can find somebody who's a better fit, I mumbled. The fact is, Andre said, you can find reasons why any opponent of Brutka's caliber isn't right. Delaying the decision isn't going to make the fight like this any easier. Whenever you face a difficult decision, you have to deal with the possibility that you might choose wrong. That's life. Is Brutka the wrong opponent for you? Are you ready for a fight on national television? These are tough questions, but indecisiveness is a sign of weakness. Ouch, I said, cringing at being called weak. Teddy Roosevelt once said, in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing, and the wrong thing you can do is nothing. It's better to be wrong than to be indecisive. Fear creates indecisiveness, and indecisiveness makes you weak. If you're so afraid of being wrong that you never make a decision, you'll never be a champion, and you'll never be a strong leader. It's the willingness to be wrong that allows you to make good decisions. I don't get it, I said, feeling as though I was missing something. I want to be right, regardless of how long it takes to make the decision. How is that a weakness? Being indecisive is a weakness because it lets fear win, Andre said. You show me a weak leader, and I'll show you someone who's afraid of making decisions. Great achievers will sometimes make poor decisions, but they'll never make weak decisions. They don't inch forward in timid indecisiveness. Right or wrong, they change forward with confidence and purpose. But it doesn't matter how strong and confident they are, I said. If they're wrong, and they'll regret that decision. Andre shook his head side to side and smiled. That's where you're wrong. The fear behind indecisiveness is the fear of what you can't control. The fear of the uncertain future. But nobody can know for sure what will happen in the future, no matter how much time you spend trying to make the perfect decisions. You will be wrong sometimes. Accept that. The difference between champions and everyone else isn't that champions always make the right decision. The difference is what they do after the decision is made. Wrong or right, they move forward and adapt along the way. Fear says, don't move forward until you're absolutely certain of the future. Don't make a decision until you're sure you can't be wrong. But you see, that's impossible. It's impossible to see the future and never make a wrong decision. If you're waiting to be certain you'll make the right decision, you'll never make any decision at all. That's what great leaders mean when they say they'd rather be wrong than weak. If you spend all your time waiting and procrastinating on a decision that needs to be made, you'll never end up moving forward. You'll weakly wait on the sidelines until you get run over by someone who did move forward. Hesitating is a sign of weakness. Moving forward is a sign of strength. You have to counter the voice of fear by saying, I will attack and adapt. I will not wait to be certain I'm right because I'll be waiting forever. Instead, I will fail forward and adapt as I go. I will learn as I go. That's a small snippet from one of my favorite books. It's called Victory Favors the Fearless, How to Defeat the 7 Fears That Hold You Back by Darren Donnelly. And he's so right. Indecisiveness is weakness. You know, I think one of the reasons the world is in the current state that it is, and why men have become weak, is because men are not making decisions anymore. Men are, well, let me talk to my wife about it. Let me see what she thinks before I do X, Y, or Z. This not only makes you weak in your day-to-day, this also makes you appear weak before your wife's eyes, because now she's going to think, well, dang, now I've got to help Hector make his decisions as well. I've got all these things to worry about in my every single, like my day-to-day, and now I need to help Hector make his own decisions because he wants to start this business or do this program or whatever. And the world also sees you as weak because they know you're not going to make the critical decisions to get the things done. So, again, the world we're living in today is a consequence of men not making decisions, not making the decision to stand up for their family and say the hard things. Look at everything that's going around. Look at how our children are being attacked and our wives are being attacked. Not making the decision to build a stronger, leaner, and more capable body so they can set a good example for their kids, so they can set a good example for the world and their fellow man. In the context of his profession, not making the decision to leave the job he hates. So many people, so many men hate the current job, the current thing that they're doing. They're only doing it because it brings in money, which is, essential. Sometimes you got to do the things that you hate doing to find the things you enjoy doing. But if you continue to, and you knowingly continue to do the thing that you hate doing, you're going to live an unfulfilled life. And you're going to, one day, the tide of life is going to take you, as it takes all of us. You're going to wake up on your deathbed and be like, man, I wish. The two most painful words in the human language. I wish I would have done this thing. I wish I would have listened to my heart and the seed God was planting in me. That desire, God gives us the desires of our heart. Not meaning that, I want this thing, so God's going to give it to me. But He actually gives each of us a unique desire within our heart to chase the things that we want to do in this life. When we don't make the decision to create a life and create our own set of rules to follow and better serve the world, we'll continue to live an unfulfilled life. And a lot of it is because we're afraid of being wrong. We're afraid of making the wrong decision. And maybe you or whoever, we have a history of making bad decisions. So that's understandable, but you can't continue to not make a decision. And a lot of the times, men are afraid to make decisions because they're afraid of being wrong. And a lot of it is around the fear of change. People fear change, men fear change because they're afraid they won't be prepared for that change. And this is what I call the paradox of change. In order to grow, in order to get to that next level of wherever it is that you want to be, whether it's in your health, your finances, your family, whatever that next level you're trying to get to, things need to change. You need to change. But you'll never change if you're indecisive. You can't solve your current problem with the same mindset and values which created the problem in the first place. So, as Darren Donnelly mentioned in this book, if you're waiting to be certain, like if you're waiting, I want to make sure everything's good, I want to make sure I'm in a good spot, I want to make sure I have enough money, I want to make sure I have X, Y, or Z, then, like when we're living in that when this happens, when I have this, then I'll make this decision. It's costing you more. I read a statistic recently, in the context of, starting a business, doing things like that. To acquire that knowledge, to acquire the knowledge of earning, let's say, your first $1 million, it will only cost you $50,000. Investing in yourself, going to courses. I mean, I've lost track of how much I've invested in myself in courses and hiring business coaches, etc., to help me to do the things that I'm doing now. One of my most scariest investments that I did is when I was expanding my gym in 2013. I hired a marketing agency to help me to grow my gym, and it was the program that I almost passed out, almost choked when they told me the investment. It was a $30,000 investment. A $30,000 coaching program to take my business to where it wanted to be, to bring the vision that I had of creating the first and only kettlebell and jiu-jitsu school that I think even exists to this day. But I knew to get to where I wanted to be, I had to make the decision. And I didn't talk to my wife about it. I mentioned it to her like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this program. Here's what it is. I wanted to let her know, here's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm not bringing this to you to help me make the decision. I'm bringing this to you because I'm asking for your support. Your wife cannot help you make your decisions. Trying to get her to help you to make the decision is where you appear weak. What you do is you take control as the man, as the leader, and you say, look, here's the vision that I have. Here's the work ethic that I know that I possess. Here is where I'm going to take our family. Here's the investment of what I'm doing. I'm asking for your support. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm asking for your help and your support, because here's what I'm going to be doing and here's where we're going to be going. You don't ask your wife for permission to do things that you know is going to benefit you and your family and the world at large. But if we're waiting for, when I have enough, when I've got the $30,000, I'll do this coaching program. If I would have done that, if I would have approached that decision like, let me think about it. Let me talk to my wife about it. When I get the $30,000, which will be never, when I get the $30,000, I'll do this program. No. I made the decision then on the call. And then from there, I'll figure it out. I will adapt and overcome, and I will figure it out. I've gotten myself to this point by making decisions and by figuring things out on my own. I will figure out how to fill this gym. I will figure out how to get that money. Otherwise, you're going to weakly wait on the sideline and ultimately get steamrolled by the competition, by life, because you failed to make the decision. And this is one of the things that I love about jiu-jitsu. Another life lesson, another life gem that I learned from the mat. 21 plus years training on the mat, getting my ass kicked all the time by guys better than me. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. But here's a great thing about jiu-jitsu. One of the hidden aspects of it is jiu-jitsu helps you make decisions. Like, on the mat, you must make decisions. You must adapt and overcome. You can't say, you've passed my guard. Give me a second. Let me think about this. No, you actually have to respond and react, because guess what? The only other option is to do nothing and to stand still while your opponent is getting his grips, improving his posture, improving his positioning to dominate you. And if you stand still, I think you know how it's going to turn out. Guy's going to take your back. You're going to get choked out, which is a metaphor for life, right? All because you wanted to think about it. If you think you're late, right? I think it was Saulo Ribeiro who said this. If you think, let me think about it. Let me talk to my wife about it. If you think you're late. If you're late, you muscle. When you muscle, you get tired. When you get tired, you die. That's literally if we looked at jiu-jitsu from a linear perspective, if we looked at jiu-jitsu from a place of indecisiveness and not making big decisions, whether the decision's going to be right or wrong, if we stand still, if we wait, we're late. And if we're late, we're going to have to muscle through it, which is all the hardships in life. We're going to have to muscle our way through our lack of making decisions. And because of being late, we're going to get tired. This is all the frustrations, the ups, the downs, all the trials, all the unnecessary failures that we're going to put ourselves through. And as a result of that, we die. Maybe not physically, but our drive dies. our sense of purpose dies. Garrett J. White says, when the king doesn't rise, the kingdom dies. And one last thing here. When you make the decision, don't go back on your decision. When you've made your decision to join the program, to start the business, to do the thing, do the thing. Do not go back on your decisions. That, again, makes you appear weak, and it actually makes you weak. Stand firm in your decision, adapt, overcome, keep moving forward. And this reminded me in one of the readings for the day. This was it was in book of Isaiah chapter 7, verse 9. Isaiah says, "If you will not believe, you shall not continue." That's the Douay Rheims translation. But the New American Bible translation says, "Unless your faith is firm, you shall not be firm." So if your faith and your belief in yourself about the decision that you made, if your faith is not firm, you will not be firm. You cannot be a strong man. You cannot be strong in your mind, body, emotions, community, etc., if you lack a strong faith. I encourage you, stop standing still. When you're approached with an opportunity to be better, whether that's a coaching program, starting a business, going for a career advancement, whatever that is, don't stand still. Make the decision to do it, and then stand firm in your decision. That's all I got, man. Appreciate you watching. See you on the next one. Peace.